Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to How Printing Industry Move Towards Print 4.0, organized by Hong Kong Trade Development Council and the Hong Kong Printers Association on the occasion of the HKTDC International Sourcing Show online. 各位來賓，歡迎參與由香港貿發局及香港印刷業商會舉辦嘅印刷業如何邁進印刷4.0研討會。This section will be conducted in Cantonese and simultaneous interpretation in English will be provided on Zoom platform. 本次研討會將會以廣東話進行，喺 Zoom 平台收看嘅觀眾可以啟動 Zoom 語言翻譯功能，設置收聽英語頻道。
Without any further ado, let me invite the first speaker of the afternoon, Mr. Louie Cheng, Hong Kong China Sales Director from Komori Hong Kong Limited. Mr. Cheng, thank you. So thank you very much. First of all, thank you for your invitation for this opportunity and share with you some of my insights on the printing related topic. As we know that from the printing point of view, no matter which part it is, if you look at the market now, the growth has been getting more and more automated. However, if you look at the applications of such technologies in printing, as well as the demands of our clients, sometimes you know that in the production line, there are a lot of repetitions over different processes. And there are a lot of connections, for example, the connection of different processes and the digital exchanges. A lot of manual work need to be ready in place. So that's why I'm going to share with you some of my insights, as we know that we're entering into the 5G era. And this is a new opportunity for us because many years ago, during the 3G and the 4G period, even before the 3G and the 2G era, the data exchange, we needed to use the 56K modem. And many people tried that. So, you know, if we wanted to download a manual, we had to spend a whole night for the downloading. And if there was any error during the downloading, for example, if the system stopped, then we had to do it once again. We had to make over international calls, for example, to the United States. During the 4G, it was better, but it still cost about several hours for the downloading. During the 5G era, we will use a fiber cable, and the data exchange was much faster, and the downloading speed will also be by, for example, per second, it is over, if it is 200 megabyte, and if it is a 2 gigabyte file, you can just download it within several minutes. So therefore, for the printers, for the printing factories, so once we receive the order, we can just key in the information into our computer, and at the back end, we have all the data connected in our system. So that's why this is the main topic I'm going to talk about with you, how to connect all the parts in our production, operations. So we had the 4G era in several years ago, even though the overall speed was faster for us to receive files, for example, the original data, the original files from the customers. However, during the preparation period, we had to do a lot of things manually, pre-printing, during printing, and post-printing, a lot of duplications, repetitions, and a lot of errors. So once there's an error or mistake, you had to do everything once from the very beginning. So it was a loss of material, it was a loss of a cost, as well as labor, as well as the utilization of a machine and time. So now we are in the 5G area, and we are using the fiber cable. In our intranet in the company, we can automate all the connections in the company. So in this way, our whole production can be done just with one entry. So all the processes will be connected. So as I know that in many companies, the most difficult thing is about the format or the method, how to enter the data, how to output the data, how to exchange between different types of data. So in my presentation, I'm going to share with you more details of such connections. There are three processes that are very, very difficult to be connected for automation. So, for example, the contactless designing and automation during the production. That is when you receive a work order, you design the size. You don't have to key in the size number once again. You don't have to configure it to your production line. We need MIS system or ERP system. And once there's the data, the connection can be done automatically. The second thing is that during the production, from one machine to another machine to a third machine, what about the connections? For example, the work order number, the size, the production process, as well as if there's any folding needed, how to fold, how to cut. So the operations design can also be automated once there's a data in the system. The third big thing, or the third most difficult thing, is that once the production is done, is the product acceptable? If there's any variance, is the variance within your expectation? And once the printing is done, what about the color variance? Is the color what you desired? And is the variance acceptable? So these are things for the inspections. So every production line, every process, all the things are automated. You know that in the past, you may have already seen that for all the printing machines, all the, for example, the model cutting machines, for example, if we produce different products, we need different cutting machines or some different knives. But such machines, 1/3 of them had to stand idle, waiting for the cut paper, waiting for next steps and so forth. So once one process is done and the machine just stops, and then you need to adjust the color, you need to adjust a lot of things. So about 2/3 of the things actually used idle. So if we can do everything well, then you can save this 1/3 of the cost. There are 5 waiting in the process. So waiting for the plate, waiting for the proofreading of the plate, waiting for the plating, waiting for paper, waiting for instruction, waiting for drying up, so on and so forth. So from one step to another, once the plate is ready, and you have to decide how many pages you need to print, what about the cutting, and any post-production processing needed, so on and so forth. A lot of waitings, and they are time, and the time is spent in waiting. So the operations time, the valid operations time is only 1/3 of the total time. The specification of operation of each machine, the paper, the plate and platings and so forth. So all these specifications and configurations must be done beforehand. So during the production, everything is already prepared well, so it is in the MIS system. Once the data is entered into the MIS system, all the specifications are done, all the configurations are done. So therefore, during the plating, during the printing, you don't have to specify or configure any specific parameter. So only thing you need to worry is that whether the work can be done. You don't have to worry about that. What you worry about, the only thing you can worry about is whether the product is acceptable, whether there's any breakdown of the machine, whether there's any paper jam in the production, as well as when a post-production processing is needed. So in the production plan, if everything is done, and then you produce it, you have the result. You can see what I have printed today, and what is the weekly report, monthly report, and the annual report. These reports are for the management to consider whether we need to buy new machines. The monthly report is for you to understand what is the fulfillment of our production plan and what is the utilization of our time, so on and so forth. For the daily report, you know that if there's any issue, and then report to my customer right away. If there's any delay on the shipment time, and then I can also communicate to the customer directly and immediately. And then if the customer is more satisfied, and they will be more sticky to you, and then you will be able to accept more orders from them. As for the management of production line, it is also important for any workshop, any production line. So the quality of printing actually highly depends on how well you can manage your workshop and the production lines. Of course, with the accurate parameter in your configuration and specification, the paper in, paper out, the quantity for printing, whether you can hit your daily target, whether the quality of the printing is good or not. These are for the people who is in charge of the workshop production workflow to worry about. Now let's look at the whole environment. We have a KB Connect. This is our own system. This KB Connect can enable the whole processes in the production line in the system to be handled right away. The financial system, your machine management system, your production management system, as well as your ERP. So with this KP Connect, we have intranet, and then we can handle all the systems within this single platform. So say you have 5 machines every day. Each machine works on 20 work orders. Usually it takes 3 minutes for manual entry. And maybe if you have more work orders, you need 3 people, 4 people, even 6 people for the data entry only for the work orders. And if you want to generate a report, for example, every week you need to spend 1 or 2 hours for the report preparing for the weekly week, for the monthly week. And then in a year, it will be over 2,000 minutes, several days for the reporting, for the report preparation. And some people, they are really good at Excel worksheets or the other skills. However, for those 2,000 minutes may not be enough for them, let alone those big companies with a lot of reports. So during the printing process, you can see from the sales to the customers, to receiving the requirements from the clients, to entering into the ERP system. Usually, this is the flow. You have the customer's name, you have the work order number, you have this is designed by you, and then your job tasks, your the sizing, your plating, the UV, and the packaging, and the stapling, and so on and so forth. So if you enter all this data, so you have to follow this flow, and then in the process you have the module cutting, you have the thickness of the paper deciding, and you need to decide what types of paper you need. So these are only some of the processes in the whole production. In the whole process. So in the production line, you can see sometimes you have different work orders, pre-printing, during printing, and post-printing work orders. Every morning you have a meeting with all the workers, and then you prepare the work orders for each of the production line for each process. And after that, and the one process is done, and then there will be another work order. So after one production line is finished, there are new work orders from a factory B, factory A to factory A. With so many orders, there can be a lot of confusions, and you have to phone somebody, you have to call somebody for clarification. For here, in this chart, you can see for those red fonts stands for automation. No manual entry is needed. In this KP Connect Pro, this is our own system, as I said before. The black fonts means those processes are already automated. So this one is manual needed, and this one is less manual needed with a lot of automated processes. With one platform, we can handle so many different processes within the production line, and then you can see all the connections are made ready. In a factory, in a plant, usually you have servers, right? You have servers which can connect you to the cloud, as well as the ERP system. For some customers, for example, overseas customers, they have 3 factories, or even in China, we have the same situation. In Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, for example, 3 factories. And with 5G technologies available, we can use a fiber cable connection between different factories. Between sales and the factory, we can use the cloud connection. In China, so 5G is getting more and more popular. Basically, every mobile phone can access the 5G, and with one iPad, in a factory, you have internet. In the street, you are a salesperson, right? And if a customer calls you, and then with your iPad, you can see right away how soon the production will be ready, how will be the shipment be done. So, and if you are from the finance, and you know that there's the account receivable, the account receivable, and then you may call your customer for the payment. So communication is also a cost. So in this platform, we can also save the communication cost. ERP, from ERP to KB Connect Pro system. So actually, this platform connects different data from different platforms, as well as the different processes in production. Meanwhile, you can also get a clear picture what is the production timetable, what is the scheduling right now, and sometimes there are a lot of words, and this font size may not be big enough to get a clear picture. And if possible, we have a live streaming online, and you can look at this slide later after the meeting. You know, when we build up connectivity, many people worry about that, well, perhaps I can outsource it to a third party. But does it work? Well, you have to consider about it seriously. What does it mean by workable or not? And does that company have any successful case? No. For this third party, it is not a printing company. It is not a distribution company. It has nothing to do with printing. It is a simple IT company. So does it work? Well, I can tell you differently. It won't work. You know, for each factory, you have your ERP system, you have your production flow, you have so many specifications and configurations dedicated for yourself. So the whole system must be designed for you only. And then in the past, you know, we have a different system. Some parts are not needed, some parts are missing. So you may engage a consultant to help you with the designing. So from the receiving the order to the preparing for the production, for all the engineering part, what the requirements. So you need to redesign the whole process of your production, and then you can connect it to your connectivity. You can put it into a system to build up the connectivity. For some big companies, for example, some companies are really big. I don't tell you the name now. They have an ICT department. In this ICT department, that is an IT department, they actually have been studying the ERP system for over 10 years. They really understand what the requirements from the production department or from the finance department. So once with a clear understanding, and then they can connect different departments better. For smaller companies, they don't have so many complications, and you can engage a professional consultant to help you with the design of your own connectivity. But what is the format for data exchange? You know, in the IT industry or in the printing industry, after the year 2000, many printing companies already agreed that we can use the same format of our data we use JDF or GMF. So globally, so after over 10 years of growth, JDF or GMF formats, actually for the Oracle, you know, they have a SAP system, right? It's very difficult to use this data in SAP. So many companies, they invested over $2 million to write a code for that, trying to resolve this issue, yet failed. So this is a very big difficulty in building up your own connectivity. So that's why, under these circumstances, now we have a new system. In the past 5 years, I should say, there are a lot of new companies and new solutions. For example, KB Connect Pro. This is open source platform. So you know GDF and GMF, and you must understand what they are. So this is the common language. For example, even the data from the work photo, if I use a GDF or GMF data, if it is a SML data system in this process, we have to have a lot of filters for the data one. So for this streaming data, we call them streaming data. Sometimes they're very complicated. Sometimes you receive a lot of the trash data within a second, and after next second, there'll be valuable data. So only 5 or 6 companies recently started trying on resolving these issues. Only a small part of the issue was resolved so far. So in the MRS system or ERP system, we call them MIS, right? So in those systems, you can export CSC and CSV data. CSV data is very handy to use. We can use some filter sheet. So what data we needed, what not needed, and when we need it. In the share folder, you can extract the data and put it into KP Connect Pro. So you can see we have a work order arrangement process in the KP Connect Pro. So after my speech, there'll be another speaker share with you how to do the scheduling. Actually, during the scheduling or plating process, you need data, and the data is related to the work orders. So just as like in the platform, for example, machine 1 at 9 o'clock to 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So then you will know whether it is working properly and how well it is working, how much has been done, whether it can hit the target. The machine 2, machine 3, and machine 4 the same. So, for example, I can upload the data from the 3 p.m. data from machine 1 to your system. For example, for the scheduling tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. So this afternoon, for example, at 6 p.m., with this CD plating, and then you can prepare for the processes well. So that is, we just connect the pre-processing, during process, and post-processing in the same system. So with one computer, it is so easy. You click the work order, you will see the data, whether it is a single color, 2 color, 4 color, or 7 color, and whether any requirements needed. So you can also redesign the new work order. And you can also design the scope of the process. So the print profile is done, and you press the curtain, you click the button, and then it will be ready for the next process. So for some specific post-production processes, you can also design the specification for them. The whole process in the production line is connected. So this is a very, very important process in building up your automated production in your factory. After that, when every machine says, I have finished the target, and then the data goes to the system. Now we have the new generation of printing machines, and they all have these capabilities. So when to stops and how much they have done, how much paper they have used, and if this is an additional printing for the purpose of a post-production process, and there's data for that as well. All the data goes back to the KP Connect Pro, and the data goes to the cloud and back to the ERP system. Meanwhile, if I'm a salesperson and I'm on a business trip to Yunnan, then I can use my iPad to access all the data. For example, I can know that the production is done. I can deliver the product to my customer tomorrow. So the data analytics as the printing, as the reporting can also be done in the cloud. In this way, we can save a lot of time focusing on our customer service. In the past, we used a lot of manual reporting, manual recording to the right, as you can see, and to the left, you can see we're using the cloud system, and the production record and all the record can be done automatically. If a customer goes back to us, and then I can just retrieve all the existing records. I will know so what are the specifications in the prior requirements and so forth. I can use the same paper with the same configurations and so forth, and I can repeat the production right away. So, of course, every day in the production department, the manager sits in his office and says, look at this screen. To the bottom, at the right corner, you can see this is the assembling, this is the blending, and he can get a clear picture what is each machine he's working on, whether there's an error in the specification. As I said before, the machine operator only charges the starts and the stops, as well as the paper in of each machine. As for the specifications and the configuration, the operator doesn't care about it. The manager does it, and the managing staff, they look at this work order, they specify the production for that, and then save it. The operator will follow the specification and starts producing. So this is a connectivity, and the efficiency will be higher. For the KB Connect Pro, so it is pre-printing, during post-printing, so all the connections are made successfully. In this way, you can realize automation. What about the very old machines? And some people really ask me this question. Actually, you can't do anything about it. For new machinery, for example, the machinery bought in within 5 years, you have the PLC. This is the So under this PLC, and there will be data from it, but old machines don't have this capability. So in this way, you can't do anything about it. Then you can connect a system, and you can enter the data manually to your iPad. So once there's a KB Connect Pro system and you have an iPad, then you can put the data from your work order into the KB Connect Pro from your iPad. So this is what we have designed so far. At the bottom, you can work order, the scheduling, the daily reporting, as well as the export of reporting. And to the left, upper left, you can see this is the KB Connect. We have the cloud management, remote management, EMIS management, financial data export, and in the center, we have the central server that supports different systems. For the old machinery, you can use iPad for the data preparation through manual entry. So the investment doesn't require a lot. You need a server, and then you need a Dell server, a Power, or the Power Edge T140. You can also use you must have the OS, the Windows Server 2016 standard, and the CPU Intel Xeon E2124, and so forth. These are the requirements for hardware. So this is the end of my sharing. And I wanted to talk about 10 minutes, but just forgot time, and it's almost 30 minutes. So I don't know whether you have any questions for me. So let me hand the time back to the moderator. Thank you very much, Louie. So I believe that there are some questions for you, Mr. Cheng, from our audience. The first question is, so what kind of a training do all the employees need before they understand how to operate the new system? Actually, a lot of employees, as and I, they are those people. They actually don't have a lot of knowledge on the management or computer operations. For the mid-level management, for example, the production manager, so you have to understand how to use the computer, how to drag also one thing, for example, from the menu to another area using a mouse. So in the past, you have the clerks and happy with that, and you can do it orally. You can write it down for your clerks. But now they need all the skills: how to use a computer, how to operate the system through a computer. So we do need such trainings for them. Next question is, so how has the pandemic impacted you, and what measures have you taken to counterpart the pandemic? Actually, for the pandemic in China, there isn't a big influence, but in Hong Kong, we are still fighting against the pandemic. For all the employees, very often, so about 2/3 of their time, they are back to the factory and working there. but not back to the normal level. We have different working groups, for example, for the advertisements, for the marketing materials, and so forth. A lot of work to do. But in Hong Kong, the situation is different from mainland China, and they can only print some, for example, books and some marketing materials, because people don't shop a lot and they buy less books. That's why the total demand for books is also getting less. Of course, people buy a lot of gaming gears and watch more TV series, and but overall the printing volume is declining. It's about over 30% of a reduction in terms of total printing volume. That's why a lot of workers from the factories, they don't have a lot of work to do. And I hope that they can get back, the volume can back, and otherwise the unemployment rate will be higher. Of course, in mainland China, the situation is very different, with better control of the pandemic. So, in China, there have been a series of government policies, and we see great potential in terms of printing the textbooks. And this volume has been increasing all the time, no decrease at all. In Europe and American markets, the total volume for textbook has been reducing year by year, but not in mainland China. It's been increasing, and the market is better. In mainland China, they are better in terms of connectivity, so that's why they are leading ahead of others. So for the SMEs in other countries, compared with Hong Kong, there are more in number. And in Hong Kong, actually, they are small factories. I don't see a lot of the mid-sized printing companies. Thank you. Thank you very much. The last question. The question is, so when the customer wants to upload a document for sharing, how can you guarantee the security of the internet? Actually, all the when you, for example, there is the 128B, the encryption of the file once you upgrading it. If somebody just blackmailed it, hacked it, it is just the trash data, and because it is encrypted, so that is the 1 to 8 gigabyte encryption. Don't worry about that. So it's just like a PayPal system. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Cheng. Next, let's invite our next speaker, Mr. James Lee from Wilson Supply Chain Hong Kong, to share with us. Mr. Lee, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. It is my great pleasure to be here to share with you some of my thoughts about the printing industry, particularly the importance of scheduling of a production. Before I start, let me introduce a little bit about myself. I have 30 years of experience in IT, finance, as well as production. So I have also a background of cross-disciplinary working experience in IT, in chemistry, as well as the consultation. Of course, in printing, I also have my experience. In mainland China, I used to be a consultant for a leading printing company. And I also have experience in different areas in addition to what I mentioned, for example, the fast-moving goods and the retailers and so forth. So I'm going to talk about the scheduling for production for the printing companies. So this is the topic of my presentation. It is the significance of a smart scheduling in Print 4.0. So this is the agenda, 5 items. First of all, I'm going to talk about the guiding significance of smart scheduling in Printing 4.0 and what it helps with the conversion. And then secondly, I talk about, in terms of a smart scheduling, what are the requirements and the criteria for that. And after that, after you have a smart scheduling, what are the benefits and what will be the scenarios with smart scheduling? Now, Let's have a look about what are the key elements in Print 4. Industry 0. Actually, about the Industry 4.0, we have a very clear concept. It is the CPS. We have the connection between the physical one versus the IT system. And talking about the data, there's a exchange of data from one system to another. And that in the past we have a different system, and this data was only used for summary or for the post-event accumulation or information for understanding of the information. But what is doing, for example, for the physical system, if the machine stops, and there was a delay in terms of the information, you wouldn't be able to know it right away with the old machines in the past. But according to Deloitte, according to the description of Industry 4.0, with the combination of physical and cyber and cyber systems, you can see we can have a loop and of these two systems, and you can from the first step, the collection of data on site, the data feedback on site, as well as you can see the data is collected from the physical machines, and this is from on-site. And when the data is get back to our system, and then there will be a lot of analytics, including big data. So yet there's a difficulty for many companies. So such information is collected. However, whether this data is feedback to the system for us to guarantee the accuracy, the efficiency, as well as the analytics of sharing of the data, so that we can keep improving the whole cycle. This the physical drive of the data collection from the physical machines. So whether it is up to the standard of Industry 4.0. So for those points, I'm going to elaborate a little bit more in the following slides. So how to handle these key elements in the concept of a Industry 4.0. When we talk about scheduling of a production, particularly smart scheduling, how to convert into a smart one. If you look at the actual production floor, once you receive a customer's order, and on-site, you have a lot of machine waiting for you, waiting for the production. And there will be different scenarios. For example, the one machine stops all of a sudden. One of machine just breaks down. And meanwhile, you need to produce the order continuously in order to make sure that the order can be done within the expected time. So on the one hand, you have the order waiting. On the other hand, you have all the different scenarios in the production floor. So you have to consider about efficiency. You have to consider about the speediness, as well as the utilization. So we have to do the scheduling in a smart way so that you can make your you can make your decisions accurately and immediately, and pass the instructions to the relevant people to handle the production. Only in this way you can guarantee the maximum efficiency of a production line. To the right, you can see this is the flow. So this is the entry of order, and then in the middle you have the production scheduling. And to the right, that is the production process. So how to convert the order into the work order for the workers? In the past, including now, a lot of factories, a lot of companies, they do have their own experience in scheduling their production. However, they are not smart enough. So, for example, maybe you have experience in scheduling, but they are getting old and they are leaving the companies. So how can you make sure that the knowledge, you can retain the knowledge, and how to achieve the highest level of capacity utilization by way of better scheduling? So this is a very important consideration. And currently, we don't see a perfect scenario in reality. And there's another thing, that the lead time is getting shorter and shorter. Meanwhile, there are more and more work orders. And in many companies, they have a lot of new machines. And the difficulty in terms of scheduling is also getting more and more. That's why we feel the urgency of realizing smart scheduling. And in this way, you can produce effectively and deliver effectively. And the work order and production schedule can also be connected better. So there are several elements you need for this system. First of all, linked scheduling. Number two, the rational connecting scheduling. And number three is the auto scheduling. Now, let me elaborate what they are. The TGO, or the linked scheduling. So you know that in the production line, there are different processes. So from the raw material to the finished goods, you need many processes in a production line. You need a lot of machines to work on different processes. So some machines, the efficiency are very, very high, but not all the machines. So in this way, the overall production efficiency will be influenced. So when you prepare your scheduling, you have to consider all the machines, you have to consider all the processes. There can be some bottlenecks. And for the specific bottleneck, it may slow down the whole production process. That's why during the scheduling process, you have to give special attention to those bottlenecks, and you have to find ways to resolve those bottlenecks. In this way, you can make sure that the whole production flow is smooth and efficient. So in the scheduling, you have to consider all those difficult points, all those bottlenecks. So this picture shows the features of the complicated scheduling for the all printing factories. Of course, if you don't have so many machines, then it will be less complicated. For example, in the first row, but in the rows at the bottom, you can see the scheduling involves a lot of processes, a lot of productions. So a work order has to go through different processes, and you can see the lines. This is a bold line. The bold line illustrates from one process to another. But if there's the changeover if there's any change to a purchase order, then you need to make some adjustments. So this machine has to deal with its existing work order as well as the changed work order. So if there's any change to a work order, theoretically, it will influence all the machines, all the processes in the production floor. All the processes and other machines have to be changed accordingly. In this way, you can guarantee the overall production smoothness. So sometimes it is very difficult to do it manually. For example, you have to adjust a machine, and it involves a lot of processes, a lot of machines, and manual operations cannot do it within a very limited period of time. Because you have to guarantee that one change made to one machine must be coordinated with all the machines and all the processes. One example is about, for example, paper. If the paper type is different and is wrong, then the whole production can also be influenced. This is a very good example. There are two indicators here. For example, so the standard capacity with 20 hours is 89,546 sheets of paper. Then our understanding will be from, and actually, this is the way for most printing factories to use when we calculate the standard capacity. So, for example, this is the scheduling. This is 100,000, right? So, based on this capacity, you can see it is over the capacity already is by 122%. If it uses 17, almost 18 hours, and if it is the standard capacity is the 20 hours, and then it will be 88%. So for example, if it is 210% of a capacity, and then this here, it will, the time we use is 88%. This is another one. If the time consumed versus the quantity, you can see it is a similar situation. So you can draw a conclusion for the standard capacity, how to allocate the capacity. You cannot do it simply by the quantity. You have to look at all the factors in a work order. What types of paper? What is the total quantity? What is the standard capacity for each machine, so on and so forth. So with all these elements considered, then you can make a rational decision on the scheduling, which machine, how much, so on and so forth. So from a work order, you can also look back here. So this work order based on the specification and the requirements, and is there any specific or special requirements on the paper or on the process or the quality? And because a different machine may produce a different level of a quantity or quality of a printing. And sometimes there are some higher level elements you need to consider. For example, so which machine is most cost effective? Most machine is the has the highest output. Then you can match the machines with your requirements in the work order. So for example, I may have two machines which can deliver the same quality of product. One machine is old, the other machine is new. The new machine is high efficiency, has high efficiency, and because it is more expensive, the cost of utilization is also higher than the old one. But you have to consider different work orders, different types of paper, different processing requirements, and different types of machines. So you have to make a decision how much time you will allocate to this machine, how much time to that machine. So it sounds like an ideal situation, but do we have any specific ways to consider all these elements in a system and make smart scheduling that we have been wishing to have all these years? Now, let's look at a system, how to evaluate a system. So first of all, you must have, if you want to have the maximum output, then you have this machine here. This is the white printing machine. This machine, if it can handle this size, this type, and this length, and this width of a paper in this machine, and the material code is 10, and the number of color is over 200, and then you can use this white machine. If it is if you use a new machine, then the cost will be very high. If you if there's any physical limit on what type of a paper, for example, the weight of paper, the maximum is 70, and then if the paper weight is exceeding 70, then you cannot use this machine. So based on this data in the system, the smart scheduling system can allocate appropriate workload to this machine. This is the efficiency data. As I said before, when the right machine is chosen, then the system will look at the efficiency of each machine. For example, this is a folding machine. So this is a very simple folding, and then it is 100% speed and no loss of time. But if you want to do the 3 folds, and then the speed can only be 50%. That is to say, you have 2 work orders, even though both orders can be done in this machine. However, so if it is the total quantity is 20,000, then this machine will need 1 hour to do it for single folding. But if it is 3 folds with 20,000 quantity, the machine will need 2 hours for all the foldings to be done. So in this way, you can look at the specific requirements of a work order versus the efficiency of different machines, so that you can decide which machine is the best choice. And the system will calculate the efficiency as well as the utilization of a resource. So this is also a feature that smart scheduling has. So why scheduling is so important? Because you don't have enough capacity. With limited capacity in hand, you have to consider how to schedule smartly. So of course, if you have enough capacity, you don't have to worry about that. So this is the optimization rule. Number 1, you can look at different customers. Some customers are given priority, some customers can wait. You can also look at the shipment date. So this is a very special one. And in the printing industry, we have this term. This is a changeover of a plate. So with this changeover of a plate, you can save time, and you don't have to waste a lot of time in preparing or changing over. For example, for each changeover, every time it takes minimum 10 minutes, but maybe another 15 minutes may not be needed, for example. So the size of the next plate is wider than the existing plate, and then you have to change, and you have to wait. So just now, as I said, that once considering all the shipment date, if the size of the one plate is smaller than the existing one, then you can minimize the changeover time. Actually, it is a saving in time because it is unnecessary to have this 10 minutes in your scheduling for the changeover, because it can be done immediately. So this is based on the rules of optimization of the process and machines, and you can reduce a lot of changeover time of plates. So sometimes it can link, but sometimes they are not rational. So if it is not automated, then the final situation won't be ideal, won't be perfect. So based on all those rules I discussed before, the efficiency calculation, the optimization rules, as well as the reduction of non-production time, based on all those elements, we can let the system automatically consider all the work order requirements, all the processes, all the machines, so as well as the shipment date, as well as the least cost of production. So this will be the benefit of the smart scheduling in the Industry 4.0 scenario. These pink areas are in risk, but still within the shipment date. But the red areas means it's already existing the shipment date. So based on different machines, the system can automatically schedule for us or simulate the scheduling for us so that we can decide what are the scenario and we can decide. Meanwhile, we can simulate different scenarios of scheduling and make adjustments immediately in order to have the best scheduling. The result of the scheduling can be passed to the production floor, and the system can be connected to the production floor. As I said before, so you have the work order, you have the production floor ready, and you have for the smart scheduling, the information can be pushed to the physical machines through the IoT, through the Industry 4.0 system. So this is you can see this machine is scheduled and it is also optimized. Meanwhile, it can also be linked to this work order, to this machine, to this process. So everything is coordinated. And the smart scheduling system can guide the production activities in the floor. So what will be the results of this smart scheduling system, and what are the benefits? So first of all, in the ordering system, the system is connected to the scheduling system. That is the purchase order system to the smart scheduling system. Of course, sometimes it is not purchase order, but the work order system, and it is connected to the smart scheduling system. And then the smart scheduling system will output the result of a scheduling to the system, to the production floor, and connect it to different machines. The results in the production floor can be collected and feedback to the scheduling system. For example, which I have already done, which are delayed. So the information gets back to the scheduling system, and the scheduling system receives new orders and rescheduling everything once again. So this is a cycle. It is the PDP. So the information flows in the system, and you can easily see the overall situation in the production floor. So this is the data from the scheduling system to the production floor. So what is the work order? What is the time needed? When to start? When to complete? And finally, we can have a cycle from the business receiving orders and your production, the completion, and how much capacity. Meanwhile, you can see very clearly for each machine, the capacity, the load for each machine is very clear. For example, machine 2, you have 72 capacity to be utilized. And what is the outstanding quantity of a work order to be completed? So which machines have less load, and which machines are running with high load? So it is very clear, and it reduces a lot of workload in understanding the running situation of all the machines. So we can also maximize all the utilization of the machines, how much we have finished and how much work is still waiting to be processed. So in this way, we can set up an ecology, the whole cycle. So the information flows within the system, and there will be a maximization of smart scheduling. For the smart scheduling, this is what I wanted to share with you briefly. And this is also what I have experienced and what I have witnessed personally. And there are benefits through this smart scheduling. Without this central scheduling, you may have a lot of difficulties and unreasonable utilization of machines. And then your ROI will also be influenced because of a poor scheduling. And I think I have finished my sharing today for this topic. Thank you very much. Here comes the official end of the online broadcast. Before you go, please fill in the questionnaires to let us have your feedback.
Here comes the official end of the online broadcast. Before you go, please fill out the questionnaire to let us have your feedback. 喺完結之前，請記得登記成為網上採購會嘅買家，透過我哋嘅人工智能相對易平台同供應商見面。Before we finish, please be reminded to register as buyer of the International Sourcing Show and log on to our AI-powered click-to-match business matching platform to meet with your potential suppliers. Apart from the section just now, we have more than 15 webinars focusing on the other sectors available for viewing and replay on International Sourcing Show Online Intelligence Hub. Please visit Intelligence Hub on our ISS website and gain insights from industry experts. Don't miss the business matching opportunities on our platform to explore business with exhibitors. Thanks again for joining us today. If you're interested in registering as buyer, please stay on, and we'll show you a short video to take you through the steps. Wish you fruitful business in International Sourcing Show Online. Thank you. 再次感謝各位今日嘅參與。如果你有興趣登記成為買家，請繼續留步收看陣間將會播放嘅影片。多謝，再見。